Every EV driver encountered this scenario.
This charger doesn't work.
What if I tell you can help the community improve the charging network and get something out of it? N-Charge. Share your experiences and impressions at the charging station via N-Charge. Give direct feedback, receive kilometers and stars, collect kilometers and exchange them for charging credits. Use the link in the description and get 20 kilometers for free. A year ago I charged my Id.7 Pro when I got it for the first time from 10 to 100%, and I had a charging curve and everything. And now it's a year later, I just did a degradation test, and now I want to see if the charging curve is still the same and if it is even better, because like I said last time I started with 10%, today I started with 8%, and want to see if I can now see the real time from 10 to 80%, because I always estimated it's 25.5 minutes. Battery I preheated warm, drove down to 8%, wanted 7%, but I couldn't make it. And now charging to 80%, and then we'll see here at Ionity. So I have my Id.7 Pro for a year and 2 weeks now. And I did 2 charging tests, one right after the degradation test that I did, I think on December 26th, and one that I did a few days ago. And they both have something weird in there, and it is possible that my Id.7 after 1 year and 19,000, almost 20,000 kilometers now, is charging a bit worse. And that's why we're gonna look at the charging session that I filmed off, compare it to the one that I did a year ago, when I got the car, and then look at the curves and see how much of a difference it is and if it is a big deal. So both times, a year ago and now, I preheated the battery. In this case, the battery was at perfect temperature. I remember when I did my first charging test a year ago, it was almost there. I would say like at 98% of the whole thing, so I don't think there's any difference here. Both times I charged at Ionity. I don't think it was the exact same charger, but it should be fine even though. Important is also I plugged in a year ago at 10% and now at 8%, and that's important to see, because then at, let's say, 12%, there are more kilowatt hours, of course, charged in the one with where I started the charging session earlier. Totally normal. But still, let's look at it. And here we go. On the right top, you see the old session, and we go up to 187 at 15%, where here we get to 187 only at 19-20%. Peak at the old was 191 at 31%, and at the new one I don't even reach the 191, and here at 39% I go down to 140 and then 124 kilowatt, where at the old session I was slowly going down from 180, 107, 60 and so on, and then I stay at the 125 kilowatt, a bit up, 126, but I stay at that level. And now we are lower on the here we went under 100 kilowatt at around 63%, where here it was at 66. I don't know if this is the charger or the battery. Since I did the test twice, I think it's more the battery. I don't know, the BMS has different things. I don't know. There was no update. There's no software update. Charging should be exactly the same. So that's weird. And we see also at 85% at the old charging session, we have a bit more when I go in here. When we look at the kilowatt hours charged at 85% on the old one, I had 62.5. On the new one, it's 61.7, so that's 0.8 kilowatt hours more. And when we look at the beginning at 12%, where we are at the same state of charge and the charging has ramped up, I'm at 1.6 on the old one and 2.1 on the new one, so I had 0.6 kilowatt hours charged more at that time. So overall that's even more. I charged a bit more kilowatt hours into the battery, but let's look at the graph if it's a big deal. Here in this graph I have now both charging sessions I did a few days ago and a week ago, so not the one from 2023, and you can see they're both a bit different, but both go down around 38-35%. They go down. The one I did a week ago went down a bit further. It went right down to the 125 kilowatt here, where a few days ago it went down to 140, and then a bit later went down to 124. And then they meet up at around 60% and are exactly the same. It's very, very interesting. And now you can see the difference pretty well. So the blue one is the old one from 2023. The car was 2 days old and has driven, I don't know, 1,500 kilometers or so, or maybe 1,000 kilometers. And you see it goes up to the 191 kilowatt, and then it slowly goes down like this. It's a very, very steady curve. And now, a year later, with almost 20,000 kilometers, this charging session show me that it's going down, and then because the charging power is less, it's a bit better here in the back to under 100 kilowatt, but then at around 67 kilowatt they all meet and they're exactly the same. So that's weird. But how big of a difference is it? Back in the day, I charged from 10 to 100%, and so at 10% it has to ramp up, and it took 26 minutes from 10 to 80%, but because of the ramping up, if I would have plugged in at 8%, I'm pretty sure the 10 to 80% would be a bit faster. So I always said I'm estimating 25.5 minutes. That's why I wanted to do the charging test now, to see if it's really 25.5 minutes. But because of that dip, it's now 26 minutes, a bit more, 10 seconds or something more. So it's not a big deal. It's 40 seconds more, or let's say it's a minute. Even then, I think it's really fine, a minute more. And when we look at the kilowatt hours, there's a difference. Even from the start, even though I plugged in at a lower state of charge after 1 minute, I already have more in the old charging curve, and then at 10 minutes already have 1.2 kilowatt hours more. At 20 minutes it's almost 2 kilowatt hours, and after 30 minutes it's 1.6. So they get a bit closer, and you can see that here pretty well. First they're exactly the same. Then the biggest difference is here after 15 minutes, and then they get closer again. So, and then when we go to the range, which is the most important, I took here the range that the consumption that I have at 130 kilometers an hour range test, same car, so it's the same consumption. And then how much range do you charge into the battery? And after 10 minutes, I have 7 kilometers more in the old charging curve. After 20 minutes, it's 11 kilometers more. And after 30 minutes, it's again, it's only 9 kilometers more, because they get a bit closer. And again, you see same range here in the beginning, then the biggest difference here at like 17 minutes, and then they get closer again. So it's at the most 11, 12 kilometers, here 13, I can see that, 13 kilometers of range less. That is at that speed what we're charging here at, I would say, a minute. So it's not a big deal, but it has changed. Very interesting. What I also notice when I look at difference between the two screens that are filmed off Ionity, that at 12%, when I'm charging with 184 kilowatt a year ago and now 182, my voltage was higher, 4 volt more, and that's the bigger charging power, because Ionity maxes out at 500 amp, the CCS standard, and I have 184 kilowatt because the voltage is 4 volt more. And this goes on. If I go to 50%, 385 volt in the old one, and 50% in the new one, I have 377. That's even 7 volt difference. Jesus. And then up here at 80%, 394 volt before, and now 392, only 2 volt. So the voltage is different through the charging curve now, and that makes a difference in the beginning and in the end. I don't know what's happening here. I have no idea. Outside temperature was very similar, and I drove a bit. The car was warm and the battery was warm. Like I said, I preheated the battery. Again, it's not a gigantic difference. Not a big thing, not a lot has changed at 1 minute, but still, without a software update that the charging curve has changed, that's just weird. I have to do that again, maybe on a different charger, so totally different location, and see if it stays that way. I will keep you updated. If you want to follow me on Instagram, BetterLife1, and if you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon link in the description below. And here on YouTube, there's also channel membership. And if you want to know what's happening behind the scenes, I have a third YouTube channel, Behind the Battery. But that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day and take care. Bye.